Welcome to The Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're tuning in today because we are tackling a topic that is absolutely foundational, but let's be honest, it's incredibly easy to get tangled up in. We're going to completely demystify the alphabet soup of Salesforce Data 360, which you might remember as Data Cloud. We're going to break down exactly what DSOs, DLOs, and DMOs actually are, how they work together, and ultimately how you can query them using Data 360 SQL syntax. So get ready for a structured, highly visual, and totally manageable journey through your data architecture.
Now you might be wondering, how do you actually turn a massive jumble of disparate data streams into one coherent customer profile? I mean, this is literally the core problem every single Salesforce developer, admin, and architect is facing right now. You've got CRM databases, marketing platforms, website interactions, third-party apps, just a huge mix of stuff, and you have to turn all of it into a single, unified view. It sounds completely daunting, right? But it really doesn't have to be. We just need the right framework to process it all.
Okay, let's dive into this. To solve it, we're going to use a really brilliant extended analogy from Jayant Tathaputhi's source material. Think of your data journey exactly like cooking a meal. It's like raw ingredients, which is your incoming data, are first gathered and set aside. Then they are cleaned and chopped during the prep work. And finally, they're beautifully plated as a finished dish, completely ready to be consumed. This simple, brilliant analogy is going to anchor our entire understanding of the Data 360 architecture today.
Section 1. From raw to ready, the data pipeline. Let's move from the concept straight into the kitchen.
Here's the exact step-by-step journey our data takes. It is a connected, three-step pipeline. Step 1 is the DSO, where we ingest our raw data. Step 2 is the DLO, where we transform and clean that data. And finally, Step 3 is the DMO, where we unify and plate it. It's absolutely crucial to understand that these form a sequential flow. At every single step, the data gets more refined. If you skip any stage, like say trying to jump straight from ingestion to the final plate, you break the flow, and your data is never going to reach that unified view. So let's look at that first step. A data source object, or DSO, is essentially your raw data staging area. Think of this as the prep station where you just drop off your unwashed groceries. When you ingest data from a CSV or some external database, Data 360 creates a DSO to capture an exact, completely unmodified snapshot of that incoming data. It is loaded in exactly as is. Why is this so important? Well, because it gives you a reliable backend snapshot. If a query looks wonky later down the line, you can always go back to the DSO to verify exactly what was originally ingested.
Section 2. Staging and transforming data. Cleaning and chopping the ingredients.
Right, so enter the data lake object, or DLO. Once your data leaves that temporary DSO stage, it moves into a DLO. This is a refined, cleansed version of your data, and it is permanently stored behind the scenes in a highly optimized columnar format. So, while the DSO is just temporary, the DLO is permanent. It's this absolutely crucial stepping stone. For your data set, the DLO becomes the permanent source of truth after everything has been standardized. Any new data that flows in tomorrow is just going to extend this DLO.
Section 3. The unified data view, plating the finished dish. Now we're getting to the really satisfying part.
This brings us to the data model object, the DMO. Now listen closely to this definition because it's a real game changer. A DMO provides your final logical structure. It's a dynamic view that aggregates data from one or more DLOs on the fly. The absolutely key takeaway here? A DMO does not physically store the data records itself. Not at all. It acts exactly like a familiar Salesforce CRM object, just pulling the latest data to give you a real-time, totally up-to-date picture of a business entity.
To keep all of this strictly organized, every single DMO is assigned to a specific category. We basically have three main ones. First is profile for primary entities, think people or companies. Second is engagement for events or activities, like a website interaction or a purchase. And third is other for, well, supporting data that just doesn't fit those first two. Now here is a rule you absolutely must remember. A DMO inherits its category from the first DLO mapped into it. Once it has that category, only DLOs of that exact same category can be mapped to it. This strictly ensures we're only ever combining like data with like data.
Now, what's really interesting about this is you don't actually have to build all of these from scratch. Data 360 provides a fantastic array of out-of-the-box standard DMOs. Take the individual DMO, for example. It's a profile category specifically built for managing contacts and customers. Or the contact point phone DMO, which standardizes phone numbers across your entire organization. And for engagement,
You have standard DMOs like the sales order DMO to represent all your current and pending orders. Having these pre-configured models gives you a massive, massive head start.
Section 4. Creating unified profiles. Identity resolution in action. Let's see how this solves our core problem.
Let's say you have disparate records. Imagine a customer who's signed up on your website, right? But they also have a totally separate record from your in-store loyalty system. They exist in two completely different DLOs. Well, by mapping both of those DLOs into the standard individual DMO we were just talking about, Data 360 uses identity resolution rules to actually merge them. You no longer have two separate entries. You get one single, beautifully unified customer profile containing attributes from both sources. I mean, it is literal data harmony in action.
Section 5. Data 360 SQL syntax. Utensils for the plated meal. Now that it's plated, how do we actually consume it?
So the crucial point here is exactly how you handle your identifiers, your table and column names. If you don't quote an identifier, it automatically folds to lowercase, but quoted identifiers, they strictly retain their case. And because Data 360 API names usually include uppercase characters and that classic _RC suffix, you should always use quoted identifiers to avoid annoying errors and keyword collisions. Just make it a habit. Always double quote your table and column names.
Okay, let's talk about strings for a second. Data 360 SQL actually extends standard SQL by letting you use C-style \escape sequences. We're talking things like \n for new line, \t for tab, backspace, carriage returns, and even hexadecimal byte values. To use these, it's super simple. You just introduce the string with the letter E, either uppercase or lowercase, right before the opening single quote.
And that leads us to one of my absolute favorite syntax workarounds, $quoted strings. Because honestly, using backslashes to escape single quotes inside a string can get incredibly messy and super hard to read. Instead, you can use a $, an optional tag, another $, your string content, and then close it out the same way. For instance, $tag $, Diane's horse, $tag $. It completely bypasses the need for backslashing escaping when you're dealing with internal single quotes. It's just so elegant and clean.
Just to quickly wrap up our syntax rules, let's look at operators and numbers. For numeric constants, your standard digits, decimals, and exponent markers like the letter E are all perfectly valid. Keep in mind, though, that any leading plus or minus sign is actually considered an operator applied to the constant. It's not part of the constant itself. You also have a really wide array of standard operator characters available, like plus, minus, or equals. And finally, when you want to leave a note in your code, comments simply start with double dashes or a /*. So we have traced the entire journey. We started with raw, messy ingredients in our data source objects. We cleaned them up in our data lake objects. We plated them perfectly into dynamic, unified data model objects. And we learned exactly which SQL utensils we need to dig in. Your data is prepped, it's plated, and it's completely ready to query. The only question left is, what incredible insights will you serve up next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this makes navigating Data 360 significantly more approachable for you. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.